Jar Jar Binks, to nobody's surprise, is one of the most hated characters in Star Wars. Even people that never came in contact with Star Wars know of the goofy-looking orange squeaky toy lizard with flappy ears looking like he could fly away at a moment's notice. First introduced in 1999 in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, being part of the Gungan species as the main comedic relief, and a relatable character for children in the audience.
Jar Jar is the key to all this. If we get Jar Jar working, because he's a funnier character than we've ever had in any of the movies.
Jar Jar runs around knocking things over and being sassy, saying funny things in a funny voice no matter how dire the situation may be. And that's the issue. Many serious moments happen in The Phantom Menace where Jar Jar just is himself. He interrupts Qui-Gon Jinn when he's having a serious discussion at the dinner table. He yells and screams in a very childish way when they're in danger, and that absolutely annoyed many older moviegoers and fans in 1999. And today. Despite this, Jar Jar could have been less invasive and still comedic. Jar Jar Binks surprisingly holds a lot of plot relevance in Episode 1, guiding Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan to his people in order to help Naboo, the main plot point of The Phantom Menace. Good going, Jar Jar. Used to doing good. Also, to prove how much he's loved by George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, here's his reaction to someone saying that Jar Jar was a mistake.
I want you to get out of this office right now. I'm sorry, sir. No way.
Anakin Skywalker, the little slave boy on Tatooine and future youngling slayer, he starts off being a short, somewhat charming, skilled, but also annoying burden to Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon in The Phantom Menace. He was disliked by many, mainly due to Jake Lloyd's acting and tone.
I built a racer. It's the fastest ever. There's a big race tomorrow on Boonta Eve. You could enter my pod.
But give him a break, he was just a kid. This is also the issue with Hayden Christensen's portrayal of Anakin in Attack of the Clones, which would mostly be Anakin complaining and pouting and furrowing his brows, as well as the unfortunately awkward script.
It's all Obi-Wan's fault. He's jealous. He's holding me back.
Yeah, it's really hard to believe at times that this guy turns into Darth Vader. Although, with his rich character development in the Clone Wars, many started to feel that Anakin Skywalker was less of an impulsive nuisance, but rather an impulsive, sassy Jedi, showing his true heroism and actually starting to show why he was such a great Jedi.
You and we can let the people in the city suffer longer. Now, Anakin, you know we can do things my way and help them now.
He learned from mistakes throughout the show, even having his own Padawan, Ahsoka Tano, and the series showed how Anakin matured from the brat we see in Attack of the Clones to the older, more experienced Jedi we see in Revenge of the Sith. It really makes Obi-Wan's description of him to Luke in A New Hope more accurate. Rey Skywalker. Where do we begin? Rey was introduced in the first movie of the sequel trilogy, The Force Awakens. Being the poster child of the sequel trilogy and the main lead, surely the huge amount of screen time guaranteed would make her a great character, right? Well, she was a scrapper without a family on the desert planet of Jakku? Okay, she is introduced as living alone on the planet of Jakku, scrapping metal and making bread, sadly the literal kind. Where everything went wrong for fans is when she mastered the Force without intensive training, beating Kylo Ren without any training. Luke had to go through training since he first found out what the Force was. He had to go on Dagobah and be trained by a Jedi Master of old. But Rey had none of that. Rey rapidly advanced in the Force, mind tricks people, even being able to shoot lightning out of her fingertips, a method only used by trained Sith. Rey never shows a struggle in anything, and she achieves things quickly throughout the movies, despite her only figuring out what the Force is a short while ago. She was later revealed to be Palpatine's granddaughter, which is confusing in of itself and never explained. Finally, she also carries the Skywalker name, despite not being a relative, but she just felt like it could be a great name to have. The plot significance Rey holds is large in the perspective of the sequel trilogy, but basically her entire character goes against our understanding of the Force and how Force-sensitive people have to train in order to gain sufficiency in wielding it. The sequels have a lot to make up for. Rose Tico. Rose Tico was a character introduced in The Last Jedi, the second installment of the sequel trilogy. Yeah, we're gonna beat this dead horse some more. She originally served the purpose as being a potential love interest for Finn, which seemed to be one-sided. Not only did she hold little plot significance, but she intercepted a vital character moment for Finn as he was about to sacrifice himself for the Resistance in a heroic flash of glory. And then, Rose just crashes into him, taking away all the significance of the potential sacrifice. Due to this, Finn is just a Rey fanboy in the last movie, and Rose was cast aside entirely, limited to like 2 lines in the entire script.
Do we believe this?
You have to say it like that. What now?
Admiral Holdo. Holdo was introduced in The Last Jedi as a stubborn, arrogant boss who causes inner conflict within the Resistance, especially with Poe Dameron, who she argues and belittles with a lot in the film. She is first portrayed as being a sort of antagonistic admiral, leading her to spin the film trying to prove that her plan is correct. While literally being chased down by an entire First Order fleet, she unnecessarily makes her whole crew think that they were all gonna die before choosing to evacuate them, literally even allowing for a mutiny to happen because she didn't want to tell the plan, for literally no reason whatsoever. This really got fans the wrong way, as she was also really stuck up and annoying. Although she sacrificed herself and ship in the hyperspace ram, which is a huge issue in itself, but we won't touch on that, breaking Star Wars continuity, many didn't see it as heroic, as her actions beforehand tell the audience otherwise about her character. She holds little plot significance, as she also could have been replaced with nearly anybody else, like Admiral Akbar, Leia, or literally any other character that didn't annoy us as much. General Hux. A general for the First Order who was introduced in The Force Awakens. Originally, he was a pretty well-liked character, serving his role well. When things started to go downhill was when The Last Jedi came along. Funny how that term can be applied to many different characters and plot points in the sequel trilogy. He was turned into more of a comedic relief character, not being taken seriously in almost any scenario.
Hugs?
He can.
With an H? Skinny guy? Kind of pasty?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
He went from a genuinely interesting character in The Force Awakens that showed power and strength within the ranks of the First Order to a bumbling idiot. Not only that, but we were led to believe later on that another officer within the First Order was a spy, only to be severely surprised that it was Hux all along. To top it all off, it was announced in the most joking way possible.
I am the spy.
What?
Supreme Leader Snoke, another sequel trilogy character. Weird. A character also introduced in The Force Awakens, Snoke was shown as a superior to already menacing characters such as Kylo Ren. His deformed figure and booming voice made fans excited to hear more about him and his backstory. They wanted to know how he was connected to the First Order and what place he had in the galaxy. There were thousands of theories about him. Was he Palpatine's former master, Darth Plagueis? Was he some other ancient Sith? Where was he during the original trilogy? The hype surrounding him was so great up until The Last Jedi, and he gets killed off like it was nothing. And to top that off, The Rise of Skywalker showed that he wasn't even anyone of importance. We just get hinted at that he's a cheap, easily clonable vessel for Palpatine. What a disappointment. I'd like to add, I never quite understood why Palpatine would pick a deformed clone. Does he look more menacing like that? Like, if I was an old guy and got given the chance to have my conscience be transferred into literally any body, I sure wouldn't pick the old crippled guy who looks like Hugh Hefner in a golden bathrobe coming to his last years, but rather have myself be transferred into a prime Arnold Schwarzenegger clone in an athletic body. Anyways, on we go. Ahsoka Tano. When Ahsoka was first introduced in 2008 in the Clone Wars movie and earlier seasons of the show, she was shown as a snippy, impulsive, young Togruta female who was Anakin's young Padawan. Similar to Anakin in Attack of the Clones, she makes reckless decisions without permission and always has a smart comeback for a direct command. While some may find it charming, many found the character extremely annoying. At first, in the earlier days of Star Wars, The Clone Wars, Ahsoka continued to make brash decisions with little to no consequences and can generally be compared to that of an annoying younger sister. However, she did have plot relevance as Anakin's Jedi Padawan, going on and completing many missions with the Jedi Council, as well as eventually being a large plot point in multiple arcs, such as the Mortis arc of the Clone Wars. Eventually, Ahsoka's annoying traits started to change. Ahsoka developed as a character, learning from her mistakes and behaviors and slowly shedding herself of those annoying flaws and traits while retaining the fun and interesting parts of her personality. Ahsoka went from being one of the most annoying, hated characters in the prequel era to being one of the most beloved in the whole Star Wars franchise, inspiring people around the entire world. Ezra Bridger, yet another fine addition to the collection of sassy, bratty Star Wars Padawans. Ezra, or Space Aladdin as I like to call him, was introduced as the main character in Rebels. He's a young, Force-sensitive orphan boy who makes impulsive decisions, cares only for himself, at first, and is very stubborn to his friends and master. People who watched Rebels found him quite irritating because of these traits. However, he does get a bit of development throughout the show that many don't immediately recognize. He learns how to care for his found family, the rebellion, and its cause, as well as learning not to be drawn to the dark side and its power. Perhaps people would think of his development differently if Rebels had a longer runtime, but as it is, Ezra isn't everyone's cup of tea, and that's alright. However, time served him very well, and he does have a big portion of the fan base that really loves him, proven by the reaction he got from his live-action debut in the Ahsoka series. Maz Kanata. Maz Kanata was also introduced in the sequel trilogy, specifically The Force Awakens. When concept arts and first script drafts first leak, a lot of people theorized she'd be like Yoda. Describing her final product, though, is difficult. Is she a sort of mentor character? Maybe an information holder? Or maybe nope, she essentially serves as a plot device and exposition dumper. She somehow had Luke's lightsaber, but never explained how she got it or why she has it. She's not Force-sensitive, wise, or even charming, not to mention that she didn't even really show up in The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker. They could have easily replaced her with another pre-existing character, someone who would logically have access to Luke's saber. Many don't like her because of the little plot significance she holds, and how easily the issue of her character could have been avoided. But overall, she's one of the less intrusive characters brought forth by the sequels. Fifth brother and seventh sister. As the name suggests, these characters were Inquisitors introduced in Rebels. After the death of the Grand Inquisitor, who throughout the first season of the Rebels was a formidable foe, his replacement for Season 2 were these two. And they really can't hold a candle to him. Team Rocket here just goes in against Ezra and Kanan, barely make them sweat, being treated like the villains of the week. Our heroes have to fight once in a while to not lose their skills. The Inquisitors in general are an issue, as the shows mainly use them as lackeys or goons that can be killed off whenever, rather than being interesting characters. They do put up a small fight in the earlier seasons of Rebels, but they don't have much plot significance overall, and Darth Maul kills them easily in the last episode of Season 2. Reva, the fifth sister. As we were already dealing with bad Inquisitors, here's the worst of the bunch. Reva was introduced in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series as another Imperial Inquisitor. You'd think that Inquisitors are menacing and stoic, but Reva fluctuates. One moment she's calm, asking for information from commoners, the next moment she blows up.
Tell me where the Jedi is, or this man and his family die!
Furthermore, her backstory makes no sense. Being a Padawan during Order 66, she watched her fellow Force-sensitive younglings get murdered by Anakin, and then proceeded to kill Force-sensitives as an Inquisitor in order to get revenge on Vader? Make it make sense. By the end of the show, she also has a clumsy redemption, if you can call it that. After being stabbed by Vader for the second time, yeah, she survived being stabbed twice as a kid, once, and later as an adult. There goes continuity. Qui-Gon literally in shambles. She flies to Tatooine to kill Luke, who, by the way, Vader wasn't even aware of his existence at the time, to get revenge on Vader that way, killing his only son, and then she simply chooses not to kill the small defenseless child. There's her redemption. Good thing she didn't murder other people. Oh wait, she did. Many who watched the Kenobi series didn't find her intimidating, most likely due to the direction given to the actress, which isn't her fault, of course. Overall, her plot significance in the Kenobi series is very weak. She could have been written out entirely, and the show would have been fine. Also, because the Obi-Wan series was supposed to be about Obi-Wan, it did rub a lot of fans the wrong way that she got more screen time than Vader, the literal main antagonist to Obi-Wan.